Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts, and I'm out in the shop today. I'm putting these carburetors back up on my car. And you know, one of the things that I take for granted is how easy it is to get parts for these things, such as it is from First Place Auto Parts. Look, one click, I can have pretty much anything coming to me the next day. The reality is it wasn't always that way, and there's one organization, and it's called SEMA, that has been around for a long time, ever since the inception of hot rodding. It's been here to help us out as hot rodders. Look, it started off as a bunch of companies getting together to try to standardize some of the products that were being put out and some of the testing, and it turned into something that actually helps protect our rights. So in today's video, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the history of SEMA. Most of us know about the SEMA Show in Las Vegas, and yeah, that's the high profile thing, but what SEMA does for us on a daily basis, that's a little more intricate and a lot more complicated, and I'm grateful that they do it. So guys, stay tuned. Today we're going to talk about how SEMA came about. We're going to talk about some numbers about the SEMA Show that'll blow your mind, and in the end we'll have a better understanding of SEMA and some of the membership options they have for us to join as individuals, which is really cool. It's never been offered before. So guys, today we're talking about the history of SEMA, and stay tuned. We're going to find out all about that organization and what it means to us as hot rodders. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week where we show you how to put new parts on, we take a look at the latest parts that are available, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. So after World War II, when the GIs came home, look, these guys were pretty amped. They had had cannons, guns, and tanks shooting at them for 3 or 4 years. They came home with a high level of energy, and quite honestly, they were pretty wound up. They were used to a lot of adrenaline. And coming back to the United States after post-war was a little mundane. These guys needed some action. Also, their pockets were full of cash, the ones that survived, and thank you so much to those who fought in those wars. But the ones that survived had money and they had time on their hands and they wanted to do something exciting, and that's when hot rodding began. Look, there weren't a lot of performance parts back in the early 50s, but what they were doing is they were stripping these cars down, making them faster because they were lighter, not because they made more horsepower. And what ensued from that were manufacturers such as Offenhauser, B&M, and also Edelbrock. These guys started making intake manifolds, transmissions, and all kinds of exhaust parts that could add performance to that flathead mill that was running underneath that 32 Ford's cowl. So what you've got is you've got a bunch of manufacturers who are operating with no government regulation. They could do and say whatever they wanted to, and there was no real testing at the time. Some of the stuff was safe, some of it worked, some of it didn't, and some of it wasn't. And that's where SEMA came about. It was a group of manufacturers, including those names I mentioned earlier. They got together and formed an official organization, and they called it SEMA, which stood for, back in the day, the Speed Equipment Manufacturers Association. And this was 1963. So they start this thing to try to corral this thing because they could see it was getting bigger. Look, performance, the cars coming out of Detroit by the early 60s and mid 60s, these things were getting pretty hot. And in 1963, SEMA was formed. And it'd be impossible to talk about SEMA and not mention this show. Look, that's the most visible thing we see, right, is the SEMA Show if you've never been to Vegas. And I'm not much of a gambler, but the show itself is massive. But it wasn't such the case back in 1967. That's when the first SEMA Show took place in Los Angeles under the bleachers at Dodger Stadium. Look, it was a fairly small event. There were about 100 vendors and they had about 3,000 attendees. The cars, there weren't a ton of them, but the ones that were there were pretty cool. There was a legitimate GT40 there from Ford, and also a wheel-standing Hemi that was also on display, but it was low-key. Look, it wasn't the flash bang thing that you see today. It was a bunch of guys that were making parts and a bunch of hot rodders. And look, that wasn't always the most glamorous bunch back in the day, and even some would say today. But today's show, guys, it's massive. If you've never been and you like cars, you've got to make the trek or the pilgrimage to go to SEMA someday. Look, this show is huge. It covers 2 million square feet of the convention center in Las Vegas. There's 160,000 attendees that come to this thing, of which 70,000 of them are buyers. These are people that are actually buying parts from the people on display. There's over 3,000 displays or vendors that display at this thing. It's massive. And the cars, they're unlike anything else. Literally, the cars that you're going to see at SEMA every year are the cutting edge. And it's not just performance anymore. What you're getting into is also styling and safety and changing the vehicles, the way they look, they handle, they brake. and it's so much more than just horsepower. The OEMs, they show up in force as well, with GM, Ford, Toyota, Honda, and a lot, and Chrysler having full-on displays that cover city blocks. It's really impressive to see. I'm looking forward to going this year, but if you get a chance, go to the SEMA Show. It's massive, but its humble beginnings start back in 1967 under the bleachers of Dodger Stadium. And now, really the non-sexy part of SEMA, right? The show is the beautiful part. That's the thing we see and we all want to go to. But please don't stop watching this video just yet, because it's important that you understand what SEMA does for us every day. Look, every day there's new laws that are being proposed that try to keep us from doing things to our car, whether it's modifying them at all. It could be exhaust or louder or quieter, or the ability to modify to make more horsepower, or just to modify them at all. That's the most recent legislation that's tried to pass, which would also affect things like racing. Look, stock body cars you weren't going to be able to touch. SEMA legislatively lobbies and fights for us at a legal level that we just can't do as individuals, and that's why it's so critical that SEMA is around. Look, there's a reality here, is that we live in a very legal bound system, and what we do isn't always looked upon as fondly as we think so by everybody else. Look, our cars are louder, they might make a little more exhaust than what people like, and in this day and age, we've got to have somebody standing up for us, and SEMA is that organization. Now, it used to be there's almost 3,600 companies that belong to SEMA. It's grown from the early 100 tables that showed up at the original SEMA show, but 3,600 companies belong to SEMA, and this year they opened up where you can get a SEMA membership as an individual, and that's never happened before. So you can get involved as an individual now with SEMA, and it's fairly inexpensive. Simply go to their website, the SEMA website, and there you can find out all the information you need to join SEMA. We need strength in numbers, and SEMA does that for us. It gives us that one organization. Look, the founding fathers of SEMA were smart. That was the Wild West back in the day. A lot of the parts may or may not have been safe, or may or may not have done what they said they did. What they wanted to do was give this thing some sort of a form where it would be more legitimate, but also more cohesive. And that's what SEMA does. It's that one place as car people that we can go and they'll stand up for our rights. And guys, you've got to get involved. You've got to belong, and you've got to support the SEMA organization. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, learning a little bit more about SEMA. Look, we need this organization around as hot rodders to keep our right to bury the throttle and to modify our cars alive and well. Get involved, volunteer your time. I volunteer on behalf of the ARMO Select Committee, which is the Automotive Restoration Market Organization, where we do a lot of things within the restoration side of things with a lot of the different vendors to make sure that you can still modify your car. We bring a lot of new products to the market, and that's the first place you're going to find out about them. Be one of the 160,000 crazy people that go to SEMA every year and experience what is purely the most awesome automotive event you will ever see. If you get a chance to do it once in your life, you'll never regret it, and you'll never forget it. Guys, at First Place Auto Parts, we literally have everything you need to either restore your car or make it go faster or make it stop harder. Simple to use and open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at fpautoparts.com. There you will find literally everything you need to make your car a reality and make your dreams come true. Guys, until next time, keep the hammer down, keep it between the guardrails.